Good morning. This is Lee Busy with the Polyglot 5. Today we are going to talk about genuine friendship among languages. Probably you've heard that term false friends, but today is going to be good friends. You're going to see where certain languages they have a nice connection, a nice bond with another language. But it happens usually it's because they share the same roots. Let's say French and Spanish, they have a really nice connection because both are Italic or Latin. Meanwhile, English and German, they tend to share a lot of things in common because they are both Germanic. But that's not all the time. Sometimes English is randomly connected to French and Spanish and it stays away from German. Same thing German, sometimes German is connected to Spanish at some point and disconnect from English. It happens all the time. But today it's gonna be the nice relationship between French and Spanish and English versus German. Let's go for it now. Something that people say all the time. To greet somebody in the morning, you would say good morning. French would say bonjour. 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 Meanwhile, Spanish would say buenos dias. Okay, French would say bonjour, and Spanish would say buenos dias, which is literally translated like good day. Bon is good, jour is day. Meanwhile, buenos in Spanish is good, and dias, days. So French is saying good day, Spanish saying good days. It's the same thing, right? Meanwhile, English and German, they take a different approach. English would say good morning. Good morning. Meanwhile, German would say Guten Morgen. Guten Morgen. Morgen in German, good morning, that's pretty simple, right? Meanwhile, German, Morgen might have two meanings. It can mean morning, it can also mean tomorrow. Okay? But in this sentence, Guten Morgen is saying, it's not saying good tomorrow, saying good morning. Right? So English saying good morning and German saying Guten Morgen. Guten Morgen. Very simple, right? Another way that they connect is when asking about age. French and Spanish, they tend to be a bit more tender, okay, more positive in this one. But they go straight forward. French will say quel âge as-tu? French would go straight forward saying quel âge as-tu? So what age? What is your age? Okay? That's exactly what French is saying. What is your age? Quel âge as-tu? Or what age do you have? Spanish would go there saying ¿Cuántos años tienes? Okay? So what do we see here? Quel âge as-tu? That's the verb to have. What age do you have? And Spanish is saying, how many years do you have? It's pretty much very similar, right? When they're asking about your age. Meanwhile, English goes the opposite way or a bit negative. It sounds a bit weird, right? So instead of asking somebody what age, what is your age? But English is saying instead, how old are you? That doesn't sound right, right? How old? How are you? And the funny thing, German is using the same term, just like how old. I don't think any woman would like that question, right? That's why it sounds a bit weird in English. It doesn't sound that offensive in Spanish or even in French, but in English, women don't really like that, right? How old are you? In German, it's gonna be wie alt. Wie alt bist du? This is kind of strong, right? Why don't you ask how young I am? So how many years I've been living? They say how old. That word old doesn't sound right at all, right? So that's why like French and Spanish, they're a bit like sweeter. You know, they don't use such hard, harsh terms. Okay, quel âge as-tu? Even the pronunciation sounds a bit nice. Quel âge as-tu? ¿Cuántos años tienes? But English like, how old are you, man? You really old. How old are you? Somebody who was born yesterday or a few months or a few years, like 2 years old, but still gonna be old. How old are you? Wie alt bist du? That's not right, right? Doesn't sound right. But you see, like German and English, they tend to share that grumpiness together. Meanwhile, French and Spanish, they share that sweetness or that romance together. Okay, the same question, how are you going to answer that question? Even answering that question, it follows the same pattern. Okay, here we have French would say j'ai 10 ans. J'ai 10 ans. French would say j'ai 10 ans. In Spanish, we'll just say the same thing. Tengo 10 años. If you're not pretty sure how to count in Spanish or in French and German, don't worry. Right up there, there's gonna be a link, or at the end of the video, there's gonna be a link to go to a video that I created. It is how to count from 0 to 10 in 5 languages. You'll be counting in French, Spanish, English, and German. Very short video, probably like 7 or 8 minutes, and you count in 5 languages. Okay? J'ai 10 ans, tengo 10 años. Very simple, right? Meanwhile, English would keep accusing people, would keep remind you, or would keep reminding you how old you are. Doesn't sound right, right? I don't like that in English. Say, in English you would say, I am 10 years old. I am 10 years old. Meanwhile, German would say, ich bin. Very similar. They share that grumpiness. Don't like that. Ich bin 10 Jahre alt. Okay? Ich bin 10 Jahre alt. French is saying, I have 10 years. I have 10 years, or I've been living for 10 years. Spanish say the same thing. Tengo 10 años. I have 10 years. Okay? Meanwhile, English saying like, I'm old. I'm old for about 10 years. Oh, ich bin, oh, I didn't put it, ich bin 10 Jahre alt. I'm 10 years old. Like, they come back with the same word, old, again. You see? Old, that's kind of annoying, right? Nobody would want to feel like old. Okay? but they come back with the same thing. Don't. That's what I'm saying. That's why French and Spanish, they naturally sound a bit more mellow, a bit sweeter, because they don't use those harsh terms, right? They are trying to be very careful, especially with women when they don't want people to call them old. That's not okay. So if you wanna be young, stay French and Spanish. People don't go German and English because they're gonna call you old anyway. It doesn't matter if you are 1 year or 2 years, they're still gonna call you old. That's funny. Okay, but it doesn't stay there. It goes a bit further. Even in vocabulary, you can still feel the connection between these languages. Let's say in Spanish you would say, no, in French you would say la main. Sorry, wrong color. Okay, let's say in French you would say la main. La main, la main. In Spanish you would say la mano. La mano. So by coincidence, main is French, is feminine. Mano, even though mano ends with O, usually any word ending in O in Spanish tends to be feminine, masculine, but this is feminine. Mano is feminine. La main, la mano. And then when we go to German and English, they share the same thing in common. Even though English doesn't really care about gender, but German, yeah, they do. But they sound very similar. The hand in English. The hand. In German, we just go ahead and say die Hand. Die Hand. Okay, die Hand. What we see, German tends to agree with French and Spanish. It's also feminine in German, that's very funny. But it sounds very close to English. There's another one, foot. Let's go for that one, foot. Wrong color, okay. Le pied. Le pied in French. Meanwhile, in Spanish, you would say el pie. El pie. Le pied, el pie. Okay? Le pied, el pie. In German and English, you would say the foot. The foot. The foot. And in German, you would say der Fuß. Der Fuß. This is S set. It sounds like S, like a strong S. Fuß. Der Fuß. Okay, let's go for our last word here that people use all the time. It is school. French would say l'école. L'école. Spanish would go ahead and say la escuela. La escuela. L'école, la escuela. Meanwhile, and English would say the school. Okay. The school. The school, right? In German, he's gonna say die Schule. Die Schule. Die Schule. See, it's very, very close, very similar. So what do you see from there? You can see how they decide to be friend to a friend with one another while staying away from the other. But I think in this situation, you can tell that French and Spanish, they tend to share a lot in common. Meanwhile, English and German tend to do the same thing, right? That's because they have the same root, but it's not always like that, but most of the time that's exactly the reason why they tend to feel more comfortable with one another. Okay? So in our next lesson, I'm gonna bring you some differences also, where you can see that we have like a nice friendship, but you're gonna see some very false friendship where they look very similar, but they are completely opposite or completely separate, right? Now, if you want to learn more, make sure you subscribe and activate the bell. Take care, see you soon.